Welcome back to Talks with Gigi. I'm your host, Gigi Rivera, and today we have a special show. February is a month known for celebrating love, hence Valentine's Day. But on the contrary, it is also Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month. February is also the month in which the Brides Walk March takes place. Here to discuss her knowledge and bring awareness to these topics is Barry University Professor Laura Finley. Welcome!
Thank you for having me.
So I know you're a professor here at Barry University, but you do tons of side work. Tell me a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, so I just like to, I teach sociology and criminology, and so I like to be involved in some of those topics off campus also, like providing services for victims of domestic violence is one of the things, but also like anything around peace, justice, human rights. And I think it's a nice mix of like doing the work and then being able to teach about it.
Now, I know you are in charge of Barry's Brides Walk every year. Tell me a little bit about what Brides Walk is, its history, its background, how it started.
Sure. So the original Brides March was created by a woman named Josie Ashton, who's now a really good friend of mine, and she started it in honor of the case of Gladys Ricard, who was a woman in New Jersey who was murdered by her abusive ex-boyfriend on September 26, 1999, and she was murdered just minutes before she was supposed to go to the chapel for a wedding with a new man she had fallen in love with. So she was posing in her bridal gown with her family. She died in front of her whole family when Augustine Garcia, her abuser, came in and shot her.
Wow.
It's a horrendous case, but again, not alone. Some 1,400 people are killed every year from domestic violence. But it did get a lot of media attention, and it came to the attention of Josie, who lived down here. She contacted the Ricards and said, I have this vision of myself walking in my bridal gown, using it as a way to raise awareness about dating and domestic violence, and they said, go for it. So she did, and that was birthed at the Brides March, and now there are annual marches in New York and several other cities. But Josie and I met about 9 years ago because I was working with domestic violence victims, and we were like, hey, we should take this idea and bring it to campuses because college students are especially at risk for abusive relationships but don't always get education about it and don't make it to these kinds of events. So 8 years ago was birthed the College Brides Walk, and we've had it every year since here at Barry.
And why did you decide to run it on your own, the Brides Walk here?
Yeah, so like I'm not a victim myself or a survivor, but I got involved with this field when I first moved to Florida about 12 years ago, and I found I have a real passion for it because it's such a preventable type of crime. If people can know the signs of a healthy and unhealthy relationship, then they can get out if someone starts to be abusive towards them, and even more, other people can help them see those signs. You know, if we educate more people, they can step up and disrupt it before somebody becomes physically or otherwise hurt.
How has our Brides Walk improved every year?
Well, it's gotten bigger for sure. We started out in the year, and we got more organized, and we got better at like knowing what to do and what not to do. So we started out in year one and didn't know what we were doing, and we had like 300 people, and we were elated. And then this last year, we've had around 1,000, so it grew. But we also again got more organized. We know kind of who to contact and what to do and when to do it, so that it goes a little smoothly. And we know the reach of it is bigger than just the people that sit here. You know, it's the people who are honking, who are reading our signs, or who we're talking to afterwards, like, hey, what was going on? And that's the beauty, I think, of the bridal piece is it like people ask you questions and it gives you a chance to talk about it.
And also educate them.
Absolutely.
Now, how long does this Brides Walk take to plan? Because
it's like a year process, but with surges, I guess I would say. So like right after after one happens, we kind of debrief, figure out what pieces we want to keep, what we want to do differently. We kind of sit on it for a little while, and then we start making like room reservations, getting the permits, making sure the police can escort us, all the sort of technical pieces that need some lead time. Start thinking about what we want the program to look like, what speakers we want, and then it's like the last couple weeks is full-on surge with not very much sleeping and eating.
Where do you see the march going in a few years?
Well, I'm hopeful we'll keep doing it here at Barry. I think it's a beautiful event for Barry, and it's not just Barry. It's other campuses around here, other schools come, community members come, and so I hope we keep it here, and I hope it even grows. I mean, if we outgrow the auditorium as our opening space, that's a fine for me, you know. And I'd like to see other campuses in other parts of the country or even in Florida do their own. We'd love to consult with people who might want to do that and say, here, no, here's our steps and how we got it started.
That's amazing. Now, earlier you said you work with domestic violence victims. How does hearing their stories or even, being around them affect you, or does it affect you at all?
Yeah, it definitely does. It's really hard. It's a field in which there's a lot of burnout because it is hard to hear that trauma over and over again. I mean, I've heard some horrible stories even from students on campus, but I guess I just try, and I was an emotional mess, like hearing the stories during the Brides Walk this year, but I guess we just try to be hopeful that knowing those people are now in line to get help, and just appreciative of the resilience of people who experience such horrible things by someone who's supposed to love them, but yet they carry on, and they sometimes transform their lives in just beautiful ways with just a little bit of help.
can you also share the different types of abuse in a relationship? Because I know a lot of people think or say to themselves, oh, well, he's not hitting me, so, I'm not in an abusive relationship.
Right, yeah, it's much more than just physical. So data shows us that about 50% of abusive situations are physically abusive, which means the other half are all these other things. It's really about somebody wanting to obtain and maintain power and control over you. And they can do that in lots of ways. They can be verbal, they can be emotional, they can be manipulating children, financial, using a technology, a whole bunch of ways. So if we just kind of keep our eyes out for that signs of power and control, then we know every case might be different, but the root thing is the same.
And what advice would you give for those that are in an abusive relationship?
Yeah, I guess I would say for all of us to educate ourselves so we can see those signs. And if you're immersed in it, sometimes you can't, but someone else can. So someone else can see it and tell you, hey, this isn't right, this is not normal. And then I would say get help. There is help available. Sometimes people feel like they're alone or they're the only one this is happening to. That's not the case. And there's a lot of help in this community. Sometimes it's just a friend that helps or a family member, but sometimes it's a service like what I work with, No More Tears. But there's no shortage of assistance that you need it, you can get it if you know to recognize the signs.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. If you or someone you know is in an abusive relationship, please feel free to visit www.nomoretearsusa.org. I'm your host, Gigi Rivera. We'll see you next time on Talks with Gigi.
Across the ocean.